Welcome Aquarius to your in-depth monthly horoscope for May 2024 for the Ascendant, the Sun or the Moon. On the screen now, I'm showing the event chart at the start of the month. This shows what we can expect as we go into May. Now there are some very powerful energies manifesting, not least Pluto in your sign since the 21st of January, very much to do with personal transformation, is aligned to the Moon. The Moon in our own sign gives us a need to really be very in touch with what's personally important. The Moon, of course, can be about nurture and being protective of others, but here you're very much into what feels intense for you. So whatever is really engaging you at the start of the month is going to take on an added dimension. But the two are linking to Mars, the planet of passion, back in the sign of Aries, which it rules. It's going to be there for 6 weeks. That alliance between Mars and Pluto is one of the most strident in astrology. If you do feel very, very strongly about something, you're going to say it. Now, you could say it in a personal context. It could be you're going to want to be much more physically active. Mars in the 3rd house will make it hard to sit on your hands. Or it may be that you're just going to be even more busy when it comes to propagating the things that you're passionate about. The problem is, Aquarius, the energy in house 4 is all about the need for tranquility, peace and security. But your modern ruler has been stirring things up, and there has been some disruption over the last 5 or 6 years. You may have moved several times. You may have adapted your home. There may have been some relationships emotionally that have broken down, that you've had to liberate yourself from because they just weren't working. Or there may have been some new people who've come in, but not necessarily stuck around. But Venus moved into that area late last month, and Venus loves being in Taurus because it rules the sign. And if you want to adapt where you live, redecorate, or have a gathering, or bring a new person into your world, Venus applying to Jupiter later this month can be quite magical. And it also brings a healing balm to that more restless, disruptive energy of Uranus. But wait, we can see that Pluto and the Moon are pretty well square to Venus. So if you feel so strongly about something, and it may be linked to a family matter, that you're not going to hold back in being the most authentic version of yourself, it could be hard for the other side to hear. Or if you feel that someone in some way is trying to charm you into something, that also can rankle with you. You'd probably prefer them just to be absolutely, totally to the point. However, as the first day of the month goes on, the Moon moves forwards in your sign and squares to the Sun. This quarter moon provides a backdrop energy for the first week. Now, 1st house, 4th house energy is complex because the Moon, along with Pluto, wants you to stick with what you intensely believe in, but the 4th house wants you to stay conscious of what's right for you in terms of your emotional life. And sometimes our desire to manifest our individuality may go against our own best interest. So just be conscious of that. If something comes up where you need to have a really big discussion about it, your skill as a communicator, because you are an air sign, suggests you can get across your point with great conviction. But if you are a little bit too forceful, it could affect a close relationship in some way. Now, ironically, despite Pluto being so much in the thick of the celestial action at the start of this month, he does go into a retrograde on the 2nd. But this is really important because it's going to go on through to the 11th of October, but the 2nd of September sees Pluto inverse out of your sign. It's going to be back in Capricorn through to the 20th of November. Through that period, some stuff that you had been dealing with could come up again, and it may be stuff to do with just how trustworthy some people are, how much you can rely on certain players. There may be some people that you are exposed to who may not be particularly good for you, whether it's energetically, spiritually, or physically. So just be aware of that. Or you could find yourself tempted to go back into some old patterns of behavior that are more fearful. But despite Pluto's retrograde, it is forging that super energized angle to Mars. If you have been a little bit of a born-again couch potato through the winter months, if you're in the north, then Mars in a sextile to Pluto could make you much more active. I certainly intend to embrace that energy, but that takes us through to the 8th. Jupiter and Uranus are still very close together through the first 9 days of this month, but that new moon, although Jupiter and Uranus are pretty close to the position of the moon, it's actually Saturn, your traditional ruler, that connects to the moon really well. If that point earlier in the month where you really felt you had to speak out, whatever the consequences, did pass off, you got through it, someone accepted the sincerity of what you were saying, then from the 8th you have an opportunity to bring a lot more stability to your emotional life than you've been able to think of or even contemplate in recent years. And it's because the new moon links so positively to Saturn. Also, going back to the chart world, just to mention, the midpoint between the Sun and the Moon is in Pisces, just like Saturn. Saturn has been creating some headwinds around your self-worth, your self-value, your everyday finances since March last year, but the midpoint is in that part of your situation, the second house, and actually links very productively to Jupiter, growth, optimism, fortune, and Uranus, change, fresh ideas and innovation. So something that's important to you can shift in a way that gives you the stability but can still see you making progress in terms of adapting and growing. But by the 13th, Mercury ends its post-retrograde shadow. The cross wires, the technology challenges, I've had a few that presented themselves in April, can make way. But on the 15th, Mercury moves into the 4th and it immediately is challenged by Pluto. There could be a little bit more dialogue that needs to be got through, linked to that discussion earlier in the month. But Mercury in the 4th house can see us almost overthink emotional issues. Try not to do that, because on the 20th, the Sun moves into a sensational location for you. It goes into Gemini. Of course it does that each year for 1 month. But the difference this year is that from around about the 19th to the 22nd, the Sun aligns to Pluto in your sign. So Pluto may be retrograde by this time. Don't underestimate just how wonderful this is, because Pluto may be shifting your identity, but the Sun in the 5th house is where you can showcase your talent, your warmth, your charisma, and you can do it in spades with that combination. Also in week 3, cresting on the 23rd, Venus and Jupiter come together in an exact conjunction. All that you've gone through since Uranus moved into Taurus, first of all for 5 months in 2018, I don't know if you remember it, but because Mars went into Aquarius and then went into its once every 2 years retrograde, it meant that Uranus and Mars were in a very abrasive right angle. And that was a time when you may have found that there was a lot of tension in your emotional life, family situation, or where you lived. So that set the scene of Uranus' transition through the sign of Taurus, to be honest. But this Venus combination with Jupiter, the 2 planets of fortune, if you're looking for somewhere to live, you're wanting some positive family news, perhaps a new addition, you're wanting to redecorate, some kind of gathering, a really blessed moment can present itself at this point. But then we have the full moon. But it's a full moon that embraces Venus right at the end of its journey through the sign of Taurus, but then later on in the day moves into Gemini too. and it too links with Pluto. So it starts the month in a quarrel with Pluto, but ends the month on the best of terms. And then on the 25th, for the first time in 12 years, Jupiter moves into the 5th house. The 5th house is one of the best areas in astrology. It is about the potential for joy. It's about where we can enjoy ourselves. It can be about where we take pleasure from our children's activities, where we get together and have fun. It can be where we up our social interactions. And there's so much energy at the end of this month. Almost the challenge of the full moon on the 23rd for you, to be honest, is choosing what invite to take up. And if you are wanting to bring some romance into your situation, there's every chance you can. It could be that you're going to just be much more interactive socially, but that is a great way to then meet new people. So there can be an expansion. There's a real opportunity to have some very big and positive good news as this month draws to a close, because Jupiter will link in a perfect trine with Pluto on the 3rd of June. But it's really from the 26th of May through to about the 11th of June that they are within 3 degrees. If we think that Jupiter can be about growth, yes, I know it's technically debilitated in Gemini, but let's think about its strengths. It's the planet of spirituality. It's the planet of faith. It's the planet of belief. It's the planet of growth. It's the planet of trade. You know, if you're a very creative person and you want to sell more of your products or service, Jupiter will help you. The sign of Gemini is very quick moving. Yes, it can see us say things in a very fast way without necessarily considering the implications. And that's really why Jupiter is flawed in Gemini, because Jupiter's rulership of Sagittarius asks us to consider the big picture, the higher philosophy, the higher truth, and through Pisces, the faith, the spirituality. So we just need to be conscious of, yes, using that energy wisely, but the Sun, Venus and Jupiter all together in your 5th house will be one of the best windows of opportunity to enjoy yourself, get together with people you love, have pleasure that you've had for many, many a moon. Aquarius, it's been a real pleasure being with you. Your support means the world to me. But we have done some research, and 55% of people who view my videos are not subscribers. If you're one of them, please subscribe and help to grow this channel. Please click or tap on the bell notification symbol so every time I drop a video, you'll get an alert. Have a great May, take care, and goodbye.